Welcome to the podcast.
歡迎收聽
Yokoso Podcast
به پادکست ما خوش آمدید.
Prima bem no podcast.
欢迎来到我们的播客
Benvenuti sul podcast.
Willkommen beim Podcast.
日本からこんにちは
Buongiorno
你
dall'Italia.
好嚟自香港
Hello from New
سلام
York.
از ایران.
Hallo aus Deutschland.
Shalom Israel.
Hello, world culture enthusiasts. Welcome back to another episode of Crossing Cultures, a podcast where guests from all over the world talk about the subtle, surprising, intriguing, and bizarre cultural differences of everyday life. My name is Asaf, and today you better listen carefully because today we're going to talk about how to deal with a local police with my guests from Hong Kong, Turkey, and 2 states in the US, California and Texas. Before we do that, I want to ask you guys a favor. If you're listening to the episode and you like the content, then please pause, go over to our Facebook page, give us a thumbs up, and if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe. Consider subscribing and hitting that bell. And if you're in the car or you're jogging or you're listening to it in some other platform, then when you're finished, you can head over to our Facebook page and also be part of the conversation. So we want to know what you think. We want to have your questions. We want to know what topics interest you, what kind of guests you want to see, and all that wonderful stuff so we can bring you better content. So let's start. I want you guys to introduce yourselves and tell me about an encounter you've had, if you've had one, with your local police. Let's start with Karen.
Hello everyone, my name is Kareem. I'm from Hong Kong. As you all might be aware that since June in 2019 there are so many demonstrations in Hong Kong, so until now there are so many conflicts between the police and the civilians in Hong Kong.
And it's the local police in Hong Kong?
Yeah, the local police in Hong Kong.
But
we are not quite sure about if the police from mainland China might be involved in the situation, but so far as we all know, the situation, the conflicts between Hong Kong police and the civilians are quite serious, and there are many violent incidents occurred.
And do you think that's changed the way people perceive the police in Hong Kong?
Yeah, because in the past, the reputation of Hong Kong police was quite good, but until this year and for the last several months, and the situation is totally different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right.
Hi, I'm Jem. I am 23. I'm from Turkey. I've been living abroad for 6 years, and my first encounter with the police was during the 2014 protests. I don't know if you guys know it, but it was a secular uprising in Turkey towards the current regime. And again, it was rather violent side, as Kareem said. It was more of a youth movement. So people among the victims were we were the same age, 18 to 19. Yeah, I guess I would say that it was an unpleasant one.
Okay.
For obvious reasons.
I understand.
Yeah. I don't know.
All right. We'll talk about that.
Okay, hi, I'm Haya. I'm American. And, so you know what's going on in our country. I mean...
What state are you from?
I'm born and raised in California, but I moved here from Texas.
Okay.
And wow, we can have forever conversation, but I've always had positive experiences, to be honest, but that is not really our culture in the U.S. is really, the police culture is really bad, and I have police officer friends, so the reality of it is we have a really bad issue with our police department in the U.S. So my skin is viewed as a weapon in the United States, so how I'm approached by a police officer is definitely going to be different than Karen and Susan. So, I'm definitely going to the States in a couple of weeks, and I don't want any smoke from the police because you never know what's going to happen with them.
Is it the same if you're talking about a big city police and a small town police, or?
I would definitely not want to be in a small town police dealing with the police because it's dangerous. Something that started something small as being pulled over can really result in you losing your life. So for me, it's a real fear. And
You say small town police in the U.S. It would be considered even more dangerous to encounter than a.
I believe this is my
Yeah.
opinion, but I believe so.
And Mike, you agree?
Absolutely.
Okay, so tell us where you come from.
Hello, my name's Mike. Mike Kroll. I am 30. I'm from the great nation of Texas.
And we couldn't find any two states in the U.S. that are as opposed to each other as California and Texas.
It's true. We're a republic. And I've had some, I'm not going to say either good or bad experiences with police. I've had some very odd experiences with police because I come from a very small town environment. I was originally from El Paso, Texas, which is considered a really safe city, but growing up all around Texas and even here in Israel, I've had some really odd occurrences with police, both police and sheriff, which is a very different kind of law enforcement than you see in other parts of the nation or other parts of the world.
Okay, we'll talk about the sheriff because all I know about sheriffs is from that show with Chuck Norris.
That was a Texas Ranger, and that's completely different too.
You see, so even what I do know, the little I know is wrong. All right, let's start. Let's just shoot it off. So, how common is corruption among the police in your country?
In the past, it's quite serious, the corruption. Like during the British rule, because before 1997, the corruption was quite serious. But after, I think in 1974, the government established ICAC, which means Independent Commission Against Corruption. So I think the situation has been improved. Like,
So
in
you-
the past, there were lots of corruption, like in the police force, but now I think it's better.
Are you saying corruption? Are we talking about corruption like among the high ranks, or just you buying your way out of a speeding ticket with like $100?
I think in all levels.
In all levels. All right.
All levels.
All right, James.
Well, I would say it's pretty corrupted on many levels. I believe that maybe it's because I'm in a stronger position, but I firmly believe that people are usually hired not because of their competencies, but like loyalty and everything. So, like I do not believe in the concept of justice any longer. So I would say that on many levels, yes. And there's no I'm not hopeful that it's gonna be any different in the future.
Well,
I wish it could, but
Can I say that they changed their culture in Hong Kong, so you never know. Okay.
Listen, I don't want to say corruption per se, but I would definitely say a brotherhood sticking together. You're basically a public service agent meant to protect, and essentially you're doing harm, and instead of, being able to say, okay, my brother made a mistake, you stick together. So I don't know if that's necessarily corruption. There's just something in sticking together and protecting your own back, when something happens. And, something always happens. And I mean, and with all due respect, they have a very, stressful job as well, but they need better training. But that's a whole nother minute.
I think it's all political. Definitely when you're an elected official, especially when you get towards a higher ranking officer or someone who's supposed to represent a group of other people, it's definitely who you know, and it's less of how competent you are in your position, because it's definitely a form of connection. I've even talked my way out of a ticket by dropping someone's name, and they instantly knew that person.
Really?
And I was able to get off. Oh, absolutely. It's almost like a game.
Really? So my next question would be how difficult it is to get your way out of a speeding ticket.
So
and
easy.
I'll share a story. When I was in the military, in Israel you have military police everywhere. So even if you're off duty, they might catch you somewhere if your uniform isn't exactly in order, whatever. So I was driving in a car when I was in the military service, and a military police pulled me over. He looked and he asked for my identity. And it turned out that we have the same last name, so we took a picture and he let me go.
That's good.
That's actually nice.
That was the only, and I don't know. He was not related to me as far as I know, but we share the same last name. So that was my only encounter with the military police. Thank God.
Yeah.
But how difficult would it be? Let's say I'm driving in Turkey or in Hong Kong or in California to sweet talk my way out of a speeding ticket.
I think I could, I actually recently got my driving license, so I can comment much on that, but I could imagine I've seen multiple occasions that me being a female is a big factor. Like, if I'll be like, I'm so vulnerable, like, I didn't know any better. They're like, you know what, ma'am? Just go ahead. I'm
Just
like,
go
thank
ahead.
you, I just don't know. You're the boss. Like, they love it. So if you're the weak, vulnerable woman who's just confused,
So you just go for it. If you were guilty of speeding, but you're an attractive young woman, you could say, "Listen, officer, I'm so sorry."
sure. Yes, I've seen it on multiple occasions. Like,
All right.
when there's traffic.
I think that's kind of true everywhere.
Yeah.
You know what? I have a feeling that even in the least corrupt country, if you look good, then the officers are.
Pair of boobs get you far in this place.
Yep.
I don't know. I mean, I'm a cross-dresser, and I've never gotten out of a ticket by flashing my bra. Not once.
But would you try in Texas?
No.
Would you recommend someone try to talk their way out of a speeding ticket?
I've talked my way out of 2 tickets,
All right.
just as a guy.
That's the answer, I guess.
One time I actually played ignorant. It was a few weeks ago. I was back in Texas for some work. I'm a comedian. And I have a Texas driver's license that's still valid for some reason. Probably because we paid for it. And I was driving, and I drove through a red light, and I was pulled over immediately in the small town that I have family in. And they asked me for license registration. They asked where I was going. I said, I'm going to the airport. I'm not from here. And for some reason, they believed me. I was like, I'm Israeli, and this is what Israelis look like in Texas. We're super pale. And they said, license registration. I showed them everything. And they said, well, do you understand what you did wrong? So I went into this whole spiel about I don't know, and we don't have red lights in Israel. We have red lights here. And all of this, and I apparently was so convincing. She was like, I'll let you off with a warning. She has looked through my Texas driver's license. She saw I've only driven in the state of Texas, and for some reason I convinced her that I was Israeli enough, and she was like, as long as you're going back to the airport, this is a warning. And I stayed in Texas an additional week and a half.
I'll tell you what. Here's what I think.
All the secrets.
I think I've been told that for a police officer in some places, and I think the U.S. is one of them, to file a report against someone who's not a citizen is so much paperwork
Oh, yeah.
that they will just
Yes.
drop it
Oh,
unless you kill
okay.
someone.
We're super
Fair enough.
lazy.
If you have like a
Super
foreign
lazy.
driving this is not legal advice, by the way.
Yeah.
Please.
But I was told, and from personal experience also, I can attest to that. If you have a like not an American driver's license, and you can convince the officer that you're not a citizen of the U.S., they know that unless you really did something and you ran someone over or something, just ran through a
Just
red
let
light
them
or
know.
something, and they don't have like a paper trail following them, they'd rather drop the charges than.
Noted.
Because there's no way you can follow up with that.
Where are you going to
Yeah,
fly to
exactly.
Israel and come get me?
Bring it
And
on.
you'd have to bring, okay, what's this guy's passport now? And can we, I don't know. I'm not a police officer. All right. So, who stereotypically becomes a police officer? I know when we were kids, most of us, or some of us, we had this fantasy of becoming a police officer because, the uniform, and there's like a police officer in every kid's picture book. There's like, there's the bears, and one bear is a fireman, one bear is a police officer, one bear is a doctor. So, yeah, you don't see like software engineers or something like that. So we grow up, some of us wanting to be a police officer, but at the end, I think in most countries the police is rather homogenous. It's usually kind of the same type of people.
You can go and then I have an idea of who I think. You want to tell who you think?
Wait,
Yo.
I'll start because first of all, I'll just say this: it's a lot of the same people that would have continued to a military career go to the police. And in Israel also, if you are an officer in the military and you are recruited into the police, then your starting rank is your military rank.
Really?
So yeah, as far as I know, I'll double check that. But as far as I know, yeah, if you are a high-ranking officer in the military and then you switch over and you become a police officer, you don't start over with the ranks. You start, if you were a colonel, you are now a police colonel, or the police equivalent of a colonel. So, and of course, like Kai, what you said is kind of a brotherhood. I think also in Israel, it's kind of the same type of people. People who that's kind of the I don't know, the environment that they're looking for, the work environment that they're looking for is very similar. So people who end up becoming, sometimes you talk about the militarization of the police. So in Israel, it's that is one of the factors of that. It's kind of the same people from the same circle of influences. They're all public servants. They're they aspire to work in a place that's very hierarchical and ordered. So they're very influenced by each other. It's kind of the same type of person.
Well, in our country, we get the people that inspire to kick some ass, okay? It's like people like, I want to be a police officer because I want to kick some ass. This is real talk. It's usually, in my experience, it's usually the scrawny guys who didn't make the football team, which is huge in America. He wasn't always the popular guy, and he kind of bulks up somewhere along the way. And he's just, when he pulls you over, he's coming like with all of the times that you didn't invite him to the dance.
Yeah, it's someone with something to prove.
It's you know, there is no culture like the American police culture. You had a very educated answer, so you're coming here and you go, this person just woke up one day and said, I'm going to kick some ass tomorrow, and that's what happens. Just coming on the scene kicking ass. Can I say that on radio?
On this radio show, you can say
okay. It's just, ass is in the Bible. It's done.
All right.
Yeah, I think in Hong Kong, like, why many people join the police force because of the salary. The salary.
Really?
Salary
Are they well
yeah,
paid?
That is well paid.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like around for the minimum wage is around 20,000 Hong Kong dollar, which is around 10,000 shekels. I'm not sure. Is it same in Israel?
Yeah.
For higher ranks, they have like even more, like 20 or 25,000 shekels. 25,000 shekels.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah, that's like a high-tech salary. If
Yeah.
you're like a software engineer in a high-tech company, that would be your...
It's the same in Israel, right?
What, the
The
police?
salary, I mean.
I think, well, again, because of a lot of the police officers are very young, they're fresh out of the military. Then I think the starting salary is lower. But of course, for high-ranking officers, or if you're a detective or some kind of investigator, then you will have a decent salary. Yeah, I think in Israel it's not so much the salary that drives people towards the police force, but more like the idea of having a very, very stable job and a very, very stable environment. And like the crime rates in Israel are pretty low, so it's not such a risky job unless you're like in the SWAT team, which that is like a whole different type of people. But for the street cops and like the detectives and things like that, I think the people who aspire to have like a desk job where you might have uniform and stability and you get a salary that you can stick to for like 40 years and retire and have all the perks, I think those are the people who join the police in Israel. If it wasn't clear from what I said before, then this is kind of what I meant.
Yeah, like I think like a Turkish stereotype falls in closer to the Israeli one. First of all, I never met anyone saying that I would like to be a policeman. It's not a desirable occupation. Like, it's not exactly a respected one either. People do it either out of necessity or because of the stability that comes with it. So there's no stereotype like, oh, I have something to prove. I look at my ego. It's not that. It's just like, it's merely like, okay, I need to make money, and I know that tomorrow I'm going to still be able to keep the job.
Yeah.
So it's just...
All right. Have you ever seen an arrest? Like, I want to know, how are arrests made in your country? Because I know, I mean, in the U.S., it's a show almost. There's like, they're very
Cops,
strict.
it's an amazing show. And
It's
America's
a
Most
whole
Wanted.
television
No,
show.
I mean, whenever someone, you correct me if I'm wrong, but whenever someone gets arrested in the U.S., they have to be handcuffed, regardless of the crime, if they are taken into the...
And beat up.
You can be zip tied.
Zip tied.
You can be zip tied.
Yeah, I mean, but in Israel, you can be summoned. If you're arrested, they'll show up and they'll escort you to the car, but they wouldn't...
They can invite you into the car. I'll be like, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, they can... I mean, they don't have to...
No.
You know?
Would you like to be arrested today? Nah, maybe tomorrow.
They'll make you get in the car, but if you don't resist, then you'll just walk into the car, or sometimes you don't even have to go to the car. Just you're escorted with your car to the police station or something like that.
There's a lot of paperwork that goes into arresting someone. I used to be a social worker, and one of my cases, one of my clients ended up getting arrested on the spot, which was very interesting, but I didn't issue an arrest or anything, but I did call the police, and they have to my knowledge, legally, they have to read what we call the Miranda rights, and these are your rights after you have been arrested, the right to attorney, the right to this, the right to keep silent, blah, blah, blah. But you have to have, like, a paper, like a warrant, things like this. There's a step-by-step process. What you see on TV, while it's very glamorized, you do have instances of that where you see people, like, kicking and screaming and all that. And unfortunately, in America, we glamorize anything that's even a little bit dramatic because we want the ratings.
So
and
that's not the case?
It really depends where you're from. Like, I'm
from LA, so it's all glamour,
yeah.
It's glitter, Botox, everything going down when you're getting arrested.
All right. You guys have anything to say?
Yeah, I mean, it's not, it's a big deal as well. Like, we love watching stuff. Like, we love drama. So
Yeah.
if you're, like, just walking by, like, people actually, like, stop their car. And it's just, like, we even have this, like, stereotypical image of Turkish people just watching things. Like, it's, like, by full concentration. And everyone has an assumption about it. Everyone goes out of the balcony. It becomes a huge hassle, even though it is not. And we also like gossiping a lot. So it's, like, it holds a news value. It's, like, the thing. So... yeah.
But is it true? I mean, because sometimes, you expect an arrest to be very, flamboyant, but then you see the arrest in real life, and it's kind of disappointing. They say, okay, sir,
exactly.
get in the car, and the guy gets in the car, and then they close the door, and then they drive away. And you're like, hey, where was all the, I wanted the dogs to bark, and I wanted the...
Exactly. That's what people are hoping for, actually,
Yeah.
in most many cases.
No, I mean, that's an image that we have in our minds, and I don't think for every place it's true. Most of the times... Police work in general for the most part is boring.
Paperwork.
So I would say, is there something that resembles reality TV or like fiction TV that is in your local police protocol? All right, next question. Let's start with the easy ones before we get to the hard ones. So if you see a police officer in the street, okay, do you feel like you're comfortable approaching them, asking
No.
them for questions, directions?
In Israel,
like-
of course. But in the U.S., no.
I mean, I make uncomfortable eye contact with them. Does that count?
Well, let's I'll ask it this way. There's like a two-way matrix. Either it's their job to help you, or it's not. And then the other axis is, are you comfortable approaching them, or are you not? Because I think in Israel, you are comfortable approaching a police officer and
No.
asking them questions, but it's not their
No.
job, because we don't have like localized police. So you might have a police officer in Tel Aviv who actually lives in a different city and he's stationed here like only once a week, and he won't know any answer to any question that you ask him, but people will still feel like comfortable walking over and say, hey, can you help me out? I need to get to this place, or I don't know.
Oh, okay.
You know what
No,
I mean?
absolutely not. I would never approach an Israeli police officer.
Mm. And a police officer in Texas?
No. I'm like, do I want to get shot today?
I don't even think it's that. It's like there's such a different culture between police here and police in America. And my boyfriend and I were in the States recently. Is when I got out of the ticket. The police in America only flash their lights when they mean business. And here in Israel, they do it for fun.
All the
It
time.
makes
No,
no sense. And every time I
Because
approach
they're-
one, they don't have the time of day to talk to me. And it's like I could go ask a random stranger on the street and get just as much information from them as I can a police officer.
Mm-hmm. So everything we see in the movies about calling the police to help rescue a cat from a tree, that's...
I will say I called the police once. I watched a guy get hit by a car on a bike in Tel Aviv. And so I called the police, and not 10 minutes later, I got an SMS. Not even like a WhatsApp. I got an SMS that said, thanks for calling us. We handled it. And I have that SMS still saved on my phone. It's like, that's so polite. I got an automated thank you from the police. You don't get that in America.
Yeah.
You know, it's weird. Like, I think in Israel, like, overall, my perception about government officials are negative for obvious reasons again. But in Israel, it also gives me a sense of security.
Yeah,
So
I'm
it's the
secure.
end of the spectrum. Like,
Really?
It's the only place that I actually feel safe.
So do you
I
see...
never felt not safe.
Wait, what city are you from in Turkey?
Istanbul.
Istanbul. So do you see a lot of cops in the street usually?
Yes, but like it's just. I hope like nobody will watch this. But I don't want to get in trouble.
Nobody ever watches
There's
this
just,
show.
Real, girl, keep
Like,
it real.
It's just they. I don't know to what function they serve to. It's just like, you know.
That's good.
It
But
doesn't
do you
even
feel
evoke any
like do you
type
feel
of-
their presence in the street? Do you see them around a lot? Are they driving around? Are they like? Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
How is the police presence in the city on a normal day? Like not right now in Hong Kong, but just like on a normal day. Do you see a lot of policemen? Are they armed? You know,
Yeah,
are
there
they?
are during the weekend, like there's so many people. Because usually there are demonstrations during the weekend, so like you can see so many police cars and like many armed police standing on the metro station. Like you can see so many police
All right.
on the streets.
And how about you guys in the U.S.? Do you feel the police presence? Like
I mean, no,
all
I
the
mean,
time?
I lived in Texas, and I mean, like I said, I've gotten pulled over for a ticket. Sometimes I've gotten a ticket, and they're like, "Good day, ma'am," and going about your business.
Super
And
polite.
Sometimes, you know, super polite. For me, it's not. I do have a little bit of a. If I get pulled over, could this be something that's gonna harm me? I don't feel like safe from a police officer, which is it's someone will debate this what I'm saying all day long, but this is my opinion.
Yeah,
for
of
me,
course, of course.
You know, of how I feel.
So you know what? Let me follow up on that question. So for you, and you guys can also answer, but for you, would it make a difference if you approach a policeman, if they're a woman or if they're black, the police officer? Would it make a difference for you?
It depends on the energy, because the police officer friends that I have are actually black women. One is a police officer that served in a detective on the horse in Fort Worth on horse. And I mean, I know that they have great intentions and they really, really got in their positions to try to help and to try to do good. But they're still part of a culture that is, like Mike says, for the first time in Israel, when I was here and I didn't realize I had like a PTSD. Police officers here keep the lights on, and I know it's because back in the day something happened here and they didn't know where the police officers were, so they keep the lights on. Which is what I think you should do if you're the helper. But when I saw those lights, I was a little bit nervous, and I realized that I'm from a culture where a police officer, the lights don't mean something good. They
It's
mean
terrifying.
something negative, and it's that's not normal.
All right. So you guys, Jem and Karim, do you feel that in your local country, the police is biased towards a specific type of the population, or
100%.
Yeah?
100%. A lot of the violence is committed by the policemen, especially against Syrian refugees. It's a huge problem, because like these people, oftentimes also including Kurds, it's not just like they're dehumanized. It's not just like you see them lower, then they're just not being treated as a human being. So yes, it definitely does, especially if you're not speaking Turkish properly. If they can sense that, oh my God.
Really?
Yes, This is.
Yeah, true. I think also the police has bias against the journalists, because sometimes they think the journalists report or they have the coverage about something bad about the police. So I think the police sometimes have bias against the journalists. Yeah.
That's interesting.
And also the students, because like recently there are many demonstrations and the protesters, most of them are the students, and so I also think that like police has a bias against the students or the young people in general.
All right. So let's get into the practical part. What do you do if you get pulled over by what should you do if you get pulled over by a cop in Hong Kong, Istanbul, LA, and Texas?
Cry.
Don't make them laugh. Don't try to make them laugh.
All right.
Flirt, I guess. As a dude, you don't have much option.
Your life is so much easier.
I'm sorry, it kind of is.
I tried so hard to make a police officer laugh the very first time I was pulled over. I was given a field sobriety test. They thought I'd been drinking. What had actually happened is I'm just a terrible driver. And I was wearing cologne, so I was just leaving like a college dance where no one drank. It was a dry county, and I was sweating, so I smelled horrible. And they're like, what is that I smell on your breath? And the only thing I could think of in that situation, as my friends were driving by taking pictures, was I just looked them dead in the eye. I was like, sweat and fear. And they stared at me for a minute, and they're like, we're going to need you to take 10 steps back and say the alphabet backwards while standing on one foot. And I was like, I'm not capable of that. I'm a psychology major.
Nice Israeli man over here.
I'll tell you what, when I was pulled over years ago by the Israeli police, I argued with the police officer. I said,
Good for you.
I didn't
for
do
you.
that. I didn't do it. It's not true. Can you show me the evidence?
We should appoint a police
And-
officer. They'll shoot our
And
fingers
then,
off.
and then I told it to a friend, and she said, you try that in the States, you'll get shot in the face.
Yep.
Dead.
Without a doubt. And then they'll blame it on you during
They'll
the funeral.
blame it on you that you.
But did it work?
No.
No.
It doesn't matter. Israelis will yell at anyone
But
they
you
want.
have to
No,
argue.
it was a traffic violation, and I got like fined, and then a year later they canceled that the sign, which I violated. Yeah,
Horrible.
I was 1 year too early.
Only in Israel.
Yeah. Anyways,
All
all right, let's play a game.
Yay!
Let's play a game. I'm gonna sound the sound of several police cars from all over the world, and you tell me which one is closest to your local police car. All right, ready? This is car number 1. Anyone?
I think that's ours.
Yeah, I think that's one.
No, it's not a specific car. Just tell me if you recognize it as being yours.
That sounds like
Could
That
be,
sounds
but
like
I
an
want to
order.
hear all of them first.
All right, let's go. Car number 2. And you guys, if you're listening to this podcast, let us know which sound is your local car sound. All right, here's number 2.
Run!
Car number 3. This is really famous.
That's Britain somewhere, Ireland.
I know that this is a French car, but maybe in other places. All right, number 4.
No, I haven't heard that one before.
That first one was ours.
First two.
I'm dying to know which car that was.
That's
It's an ambulance.
That's an ambulance in Hong Kong? Yeah, sometimes they have different sounds.
These aren't police cars at all. We've been listening to ambulances.
the whole time.
Wait, here's number 6.
The first one is
I feel
ours.
attacked by that.
Yes.
I'll tell you what. I think like it's super weird that there's not we couldn't agree as a human race on like having a certain sound for the police anywhere, and then another sound for the ambulances, which would be so if you're in another country, you would know. Wait, is it the police? No, it's an ambulance, or it's the fire department, or I don't know.
Gosh.
I think I can only outrun the
I
first
think
three.
that we should send a bill to the UN to.
Okay.
All right, 2 more. Let's do 2 more.
I know that sound from Law and Order.
All right, now last one.
Oh, that sounds like my childhood.
Now that was an ambulance in our country. That's when you get shot by the police and they send you.
You can't convict them if they called for help.
Yeah. All right. So, quick question before we move on to our next segment. Is there a nickname, like a derogatory nickname for the cops? In Israel, you know the derogatory nickname for the
No,
police?
tell us.
What?
You guys don't know it?
We're about to.
I mean, if there are police officers watching, this is nothing personal. I'm just
Bring it on.
stating a
My
fact.
name is Thad.
But we call them maniac,
Which means
which is like maniac.
with the accent.
But stated like a maniac, like someone who's doing it on purpose. So that's the derogatory term for a police officer. Not something you want to say to a police officer in Israel.
I'll add it to the list.
Thank you for that.
How about Texas?
Whatever, I'm gonna get arrested anyways. You hear it a lot. Well, I don't care. Come and get me. They call some cops pigs, which is I think it's very. You've heard it.
Yeah, I've heard it.
Honk.
We call them
Oink.
pig. Oh god, we have so many names.
5
For this episode, we'll talk about pigs.
Pigs? Anything like specific to Texas?
Ooh. No, my mama's gonna hit me if I list those.
All
out.
right. Chaya?
And in Cali, they say 5-0.
Yep.
5-0 or the popo.
Popo.
Oh, the popo coming to get you, girl. The popo coming. Why? Run.
Call the popo home.
Run forward, backwards, so you get shot in the front and not the back.
All right, Jim.
I'm gonna. I know I sound a bit boring, but I swear to God, maybe it's because I haven't been back home like for extended for 6 years. I swear to God, I haven't heard any synonyms. I swear to God, like I'm like.
So how do you say police in
Police.
Police. Okay.
Just yeah.
All right, police.
Yeah, in Hong Kong, like they call them dogs.
Ooh.
Yeah, I guess they only like.
As a dog lover, I would still think that's worse than pigs.
Dogs are
Yeah,
cute.
yeah.
Dogs are
Then
cool,
they-
but still, calling someone a dog.
Dogs.
Yeah, they
Wow.
only listen to orders from the leader.
And how do you say that in Hong Kong?
In Cantonese.
Yeah.
Gao.
Gao?
Gao is
Okay.
dogs.
All right. So before we move to the next segment, I really want to ask. There's a few questions I really need to know. What is a sheriff? Because we said we'd talk about it. So what is a sheriff? Is he a state police? Because there's so many like levels in the U.S.
Yeah.
There's like a state trooper and the state policeman.
So we have a lot in, at least in Texas, because we're just so massive. We're larger than most countries in Europe. Actually, 34 or 33 Israels can fit inside Texas alone. We're very large. So the state is divided up into counties, which is similar to a municipality here. But they're very, very large counties. So the police are generally... Their service area is a city or a small town, and when you get to these outlying districts within the counties, Where there's less population but larger landmass, you have the sheriffs. So if the police service a specific town, the sheriff services a specific county.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Oh.
All right.
You put it so well.
Yeah,
that
that was clear.
Nice.
I'm not going to say I've had lots of run-ins with the police. I'm just saying I am well antiquated with police terminology.
I want the smoke.
All right. And now, let's go on to our rapid-fire question. I'm going to ask you all the same question. We're going to start with you, Kareem, so you get ready. Just answer off the top of your head. Favorite word in Hebrew so far?
Shalom.
Shalom. All right.
Sababa.
Sababa. All right.
Rega.
Ben's on.
All right. I'm not going to ask any one of you to explain. All right. Number 2. Favorite snack from back home?
Chocolate biscuits.
Which one? What's the brand?
It's called Kit. I think I can't remember Kit. It's like a green tea chocolate biscuits.
Green tea chocolate biscuits. All right.
Would it count as a snack if I said Turkish delight? It's more
Yeah.
like
Oh, yeah.
Okay, Turkish delight,
Only
yes.
if you said it, but yeah. that counts.
Chips and salsa.
Oh, took my answer. So I'll say popcorn.
Popcorn? No, you have to be more specific than that.
I mean, I make my own
Cheesy
popcorn.
popcorn.
No,
Oh.
I make mine. It's called popcorn soup because you have to eat it with a spoon.
Ooh.
It's disgusting. I love it.
All right. Okay.
I really dislike the popcorn, the sweet ones.
I don't like sweet
I
popcorn. I
hate it.
judge
I
people
just
for
can't.
eating sweet
The
popcorn.
caramelized one?
It's
Yeah, I
disgusting.
hate it.
like
I
it.
can't.
It's disgusting.
Oh, damn.
Nope.
No. Same.
Okay. All right. Fill in the blank. You've never blank until you've blanked in my city.
Thank God Jesus isn't watching.
If you you could just shout your answer.
You've never lived until you've attended a show by Mike Kroll in my city. Am I allowed to say that? Is that a thing?
Is that your thing?
It is. You've
All
never
right.
lived till you see me perform.
All right. And if we're going to Texas and you're not there, what's the?
Oh, you've never lived till you had Mexican food in my city.
Oh, is it Mexican or is it Tex-Mex though?
It's Tex-Mex, but I'm from El Paso. It's the border of Mexico,
Yeah.
and you can only find great Mexican food in a restaurant in Texas where they don't speak English.
Ha. All right. All right, you guys. You have time to think.
It's all. We're Americans. So it's gonna be food. You have never. Actually,
it wasn't a
okay.
food question.
Let me go there. It's not a food. You have never lived until you've been to Six Flags Magic Mountain in my city, in my state, in Valencia, California.
And it's a theme park.
Yeah, it's a theme park.
All right.
Magic Mountain, the Colossus.
Oh,
All right.
girl.
All right, Jeff.
Okay, I'm not sure if I can exactly replicate the grammatical structure of the way you said it, but I think you haven't lived in Istanbul. You haven't attended to a street wedding, like the weddings that extend to street.
Street wedding.
It's the best, like, and you get to see a lot, and like people are super welcoming, and I think that's the.
All right.
way to-
That was
I think
super.
in Hong Kong-
Where were you when we did the weddings episode? All right.
Oh, yeah, street weddings.
Kareem?
Yeah, I think you have to visit the peak in Hong Kong. Like I think you can see the beautiful view in Hong Kong. So
All
I
right.
think you have to visit that one.
Okay, so I hope you all have written that down in your bucket list. And for now, I want to thank you guys. Were great. This was like a hard topic, but you aced it,
What?
and nobody got arrested. It was
Nobody got
super-
arrested or
Yes.
Hopefully, not yet. Yeah.
The police are waiting for us outside.
Run!
So if you guys enjoyed this episode, please head on over to our Facebook page and our YouTube channel. Give us some love. We love you unconditionally, even if you don't, but just it helps, you know. And give us a thumbs up, and that's a good contraction of that. And just let us know how things are like in your country, and if you want to be guests on the show, hit us up, send us a message, or you can write us an email at crossingculturespodcast@gmail.com. We'll have that written down. It's pretty easy to remember. Thank you very much for being a part of this
Thank
show.
you so much.
Thank you. It was
And
amazing.
yeah, I had a great time, and I'll see you on the next episode.
Awesome.